For 26 years, had a very, very successful business in the fitness industry. I was doing infomercials. I was sponsored by Nike, and everything changed in a blink of an eye. I was on my way home from work. I jumped on my Harley and was cruising down Ventura Boulevard, and I was thrown 30 feet. And when I finally came to a stop, I looked down at my leg, and it was completely broken into pieces. First thing I learned was they said, I'm so sorry. There's nothing we can do for you other than amputate your leg. You have a 1% chance.
Welcome to the Hard Way podcast with Joe Sena, founder and CEO of Spartan Races. We're teaching you how to overcome your obstacles in your life the same way we teach our 10 million plus Spartans to overcome obstacles on the course, with insight from the smartest, most accomplished experts from every corner of the world. Get ready to elevate your life today.
Joe Sena, CEO and founder of Spartan here and the host of the Hard Way podcast. I got a special one for you today. Amberly Lago, resiliency coach. I thought we were the ultimate resiliency coach, but this woman is. She's out there inspiring people, getting them through tough times because everybody faces tough times. And I don't want to give it away, but you were in an amazing recovery, amazing journey where you went through some tough times, which we'll get into, and came out the other side bigger, better, stronger.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm so honored to get to be able to talk with you today and be here. So thank you.
I feel like I'm in like 1888 with those actors and actresses with your accent. I love the Texas accent. That's awesome.
Grew up in Texas, but moved to California, and I lived there for 31 years. And I was in the entertainment industry, and I had my agent say, "You've got to get rid of your accent." And I went to take a class with, a coach to help me get rid of my accent. And I went, and he had me do some breathing exercises, and I fainted and fell on top of him. And I never went back. So I kept the accent, and now I moved back to Texas. And I'm like, I'm glad I kept the accent moving back here to Texas, because people here in Texas don't really like people moving from California.
Was your life pretty easy? I mean, how'd you become a resiliency coach? It must have been a pretty tough life.
Yeah, I think that every hard thing that we go through helps us, if we choose, to tap into our resiliency, and we can learn and grow from all those struggles. And I definitely grew up with not the easiest childhood. And I think that every challenge that I went through really helped and prepared me through all the struggles that I went through, still continue to go through. And in fact, I was just talking to a client of mine this morning, and we just bought my daughter. So I bought my first car. Like, as a kid, if we wanted something, we had to get a job and pay for it and buy for it. Well, I bought my youngest daughter a truck. Her dream truck was, she wanted a F-250. I said, we'll start with a F-150. I got her F-150. I think that growing up with not that much money and learning the value of how, when you work hard, you can have things if you really work for them, it really helped me. But also, I was just I actually have one of my mastermind members is in between places of living, and she's actually staying with me right now. And I was talking to her. She was a former dancer. I said, I'm grateful for all the challenges I had as a professional dancer, because it helped prepare me for rejection and hardships as an entrepreneur. Because as a dancer, it's brutal. I mean, there were times where I was putting a lineup, and they were like, too skinny, too fat, too tall, too short, too whatever. And it was just like, okay. And I trained myself to go, okay, well, I got that no, but that means I'm one step closer to a yes. And so I think so often, so many times, give up, or people, when it gets hard, they just want to quit. And it's like, you got to put in the work. And if you really love what you're doing and you put in the work, then what's meant for you will come to you.
You know, what's funny is we just got a puppy in the house. Oh, it's a beautiful little American Staffordshire Terrier. I mean, it's gorgeous. I'm really enjoying flipping her over on her back and rubbing her belly. And my daughters are having a blast with her. And we're taking care of her and we're carrying her outside and putting her on the grass to go to the bathroom. And this morning I was going out for my 5-mile run on my burpees and my pull-ups. And I thought, oh my God, we're turning this creature, which could be a wolf in the wild, into a little pansy because we're taking care of her. We're doing everything. We're buying her the truck. We're getting her the lift, right? Like, so here we are, you and I, the resiliency experts. We talk a big game, but it even infects us, right? Where we just do too much for people around us because it feels good, makes us feel good. But in fact, you're doing a disservice for the person, for the kid, for the puppy.
Well, yeah, and that's a thing. I grew up where I was like, I don't want my kids to have to struggle the way that I did and have to, when I was in high school, I worked 4 jobs. I had 4 jobs. But at the same time, I want my daughter to know, and you know what? My oldest daughter, so I never went to college. My oldest daughter, I'm proud to say this because I didn't go to college. My oldest daughter is amazing. She's getting her PhD at Yale. My youngest daughter, she has worked so hard and she's an equestrian, so she's a horseback rider. And I think that there are so many lessons to be learned from your kids being in an extracurricular activity, whether it's sports or like my daughter being a horseback rider, because I can't tell you how many times she's been thrown off her horse and now she gets thrown off and she doesn't even stop to brush the dirt off of her. She just is like thrown off and gets back on. But she also, it's taught her resiliency for sure, but patience, trust, compassion, forgiveness, because I can't tell you how many times we got in the car and she was mad at her horse, but it's given her a work ethic. And also, I love being able to set an example. Sometimes I have this mom guilt of, oh my goodness, I'm working or I'm traveling too much for work. I'm doing this or that. But I see what my daughters learn from it, and that my oldest daughter is an incredible student getting her PhD. My youngest daughter, now that I'm like, if you want something, yeah, earn the money, buy it. So she started an online business, is constantly you just made a sale, you just made a sale, you just made a sale. And I'm like, well, there you go. You go and keep selling products. And then can you help me run my own business, daughter? Because she goes viral on TikTok. And I'm like, can you just help me with that? Can this be a team effort?
I love it. It's our job to get them to stand up and be adults. So I love it. Give us some, I don't know, some quick tips. You've dealt with a lot of folks that, whether they're having issues, staying motivated, staying disciplined, drinking, whatever it may be. What are some quick tips, some non-negotiables we should all instill in our lives to be better, tougher, stronger?
Well, I had a major setback, and it's what inspired me to write my new book, Joy Through the Journey. Life was good. I mean, I was getting booked for all the speaking gigs. I was booked with clients. Life was like, work was good. Speaking of non-negotiables, I was starting to let those go. Like, my non-negotiables were getting down on my knees and praying every morning, my gratitude list, reaching out to somebody and telling them why I was grateful for them, working out, all these things, going to my recovery meetings. So I got sober in 2016. I started letting these things slip, and I really hit an all-time low. And I had to get back to basics. And I always say, I got to keep it simple. And I live by the rule of HALT, which is never get too hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. My husband knows this very well. So he knows when I'm in my office on Zooms and stuff all day, he will leave here's your food right outside your office. Don't get too hungry. Doesn't want to see me get angry. He calls that don't go Texas on me, because I have a long fuse, but when it's up, when I am like to my wit's end, it's not pretty. Lonely, I used to think that I just had to grit it out. And what I've learned is resiliency is only when we have grit with connection. When we don't have grit with connection, it's resistance. But when we do have grit with connection, with community, that is where we soar. That is where we find that resiliency. That is where we can level up our lives, our businesses. That's where we tap into our joy. And so I'm big on that. And then the last part, tired. I've gotten super, super strategic about resting and recovery. I mean, growing up as an athlete where I had a coach that was like, if you're going to throw up, get off the track to throw up and keep running. My dance teacher was like, we don't care if I don't care if your toes are bleeding in your point shoes. The show must go on. Like, do you want your understudy to take over? And growing up in Texas, it was like resting was for quitters. And I had to rewire my brain where like I wear a ring that measures my sleep. I even have a watch. And I've made resting a part of my business strategy. I've rewired it to think of resting doesn't mean that you're quitting or you're lazy or you're tired. It means that you're recovering. And I feel like sometimes we have to slow down. And I'm still guilty of this. I'm not great at it. I still have to practice it and I mess up all the time. But I just love going full throttle. I'm an adrenaline junkie. I love going full throttle. But I've learned if we don't slow down around the curves, we're going to wipe out. And I wiped out over and over and over again. So I'm trying my best to share this, but live it too. Like I said, I'm not great at it, but I'm practicing it.
I think we all are, right? Even the experts have to constantly, stay toned. Otherwise, we lose it. What happened, if you don't mind me asking? What happened with the accident, the motorcycle accident?
Well, I mean, I was in a completely different industry. I, for 26 years, had a very, very successful business in the fitness industry. I employed several other trainers. I had a course where I taught trainers how to get certified and run their business in the fitness industry. I was doing infomercials. I was sponsored by Nike. I was on, it was crazy. So if you went into any CVS or Rite Aid, it was wild. I would go in there and go, oh my gosh, I'm on the cover of those vitamin labels, So life was good. I was regularly contributing to Shape and Health magazine, and everything changed in a blink of an eye. I was on my way home from work. I'd just finished training clients, jumped on my Harley, and was cruising down Ventura Boulevard. And I had an SUV shoot out of a parking lot. They T-boned me. I was thrown 30 feet and slid across the asphalt. And when I finally came to a stop, I looked down at my leg and it was completely broken into pieces. And it's crazy to look down at a limb and just see it. Like my foot was dangling off and only held on by skin. I didn't know it at the time, but my femoral artery was severed. Thankfully, I had a guy that ran over and he ripped his belt off and made a tourniquet around my leg right away. Paramedics were right down the street. They started running towards me before they even got the call. They heard the accident and they started running towards me, rushed to the hospital. And when I got there, I had lost so much blood, my vitals, everything. My organs were shutting down because of the blood loss. They couldn't control my pain, so they put me in induced coma. And when I woke up from a coma, the first thing I learned was they said, I'm so sorry. There's nothing we can do for you other than amputate your leg. You have a 1% chance of saving your leg. It's like a war wound. All I thought was, well, wait a minute. then you're saying there's a chance. You said there's a 1% chance. Then there's a chance. And I need somebody that's going to be willing to save my leg, because I looked at it as it's my livelihood. That's how I put a roof over my family's head. It's my therapy. Running was my drug of choice. I ran whether I was happy, sad, anxious, whatever. Running was my therapy. And I was like, I have to save my leg. There's no other choice. And so it took 34 surgeries and months in the hospital, but Dr. Don Wiss actually ended up saving my leg. And I thought the worst was over, but then as a result of an accident, I was diagnosed with a nerve disease called complex regional pain syndrome, which that is when my healing journey started to begin, because it wasn't just the accident and the 34 surgeries. That was a lot, but dealing with constant chronic pain. I mean, actually, I was supposed to be on your podcast a while back and I was in the hospital and I felt so horrible, but that's what this nerve disease does, is like I can have a flare up that can get so bad that it can make me so nauseated where I can't stop throwing up and I'm hospitalized. And so that's been a really healing journey for me. So I don't want to sit here and say, yeah, I had this accident. Now everything's great. No, I'm continuing to learn and grow and figure it all out. I think, I don't know if any of us have it all figured out. And I think if somebody does say they have it all figured out, then maybe you should run from them as fast as you can. Because I'm like, really? Do you have it all figured out? I'm just still trying to figure it all out. But it's definitely been a journey. And what turns the pain that I experience into purpose is being able to get to talk with you. So thank you for this, being able to be on your show and get to share with your audience. That's what really keeps me going.
Yeah, and helping people in general, right? Having folks like the woman you said sleeping over, she's going through some stuff, and for me, that the same thing. The purpose is in help. It's really powerful. It's like a currency. It's an addiction. Actually, I'm addicted to helping people.
People ask me a lot, like, well, how did you get through so long being stuck in a hospital bed? And how did you keep your mindset right? Well, you know what? I did whatever I could to be of service. And people go, well, how could you be of service when you were stuck in a hospital bed? And believe me, I was in a hospital bed and couldn't even sit up or stand up. I had to have a bedpan. I actually had dreadlocks in the back of my hair because I had been stuck in a coma and stuck to the bed for so long. But what I did, and I didn't do this because I thought, well, this is going to make me feel better. I did it because it's all I knew to do. And as a result, I noticed how it made me feel better. But I was of service to anybody and everybody I could be. And that included my clients. I couldn't physically train them anymore, but you know what? I could call and check on them. I could call the trainers that worked along with me and say, hey, I need you to cover this person. And I could increase their business by referring them clients. I had a chair in my room. There was a curtain that you could pull over, and there was a chair in the corner of my room. These nurses would come and plop themselves down, and they work hard. They'd have 12-hour shifts, and they would plop themselves down and just vent to me or tell me what was going on. Some of them would cry, and I may not have been able to give them the best advice, but I could give them some suggestions and I could be there to listen. And I think at the end of the day, that's all we really want to be seen, heard, and understood. And so to be of service to others, you don't have to take big action, take small actions and do whatever you can to go out there and be a good human, because it's a gift to yourself.
I agree 1,000%. When we're doing something that's bigger than us, it makes whatever we're going through a lot easier. What's next?
Oh my goodness, there's so much. Can I just say there's so much? I'm not gonna lie. I'm honestly like, I wake up a little scared every day, but I hear that when you're scared, that's a good thing. It means that you're doing something important. I am speaking at a lot of different events. I've got my new book coming out. I have my annual event coming up, and I was at dinner. My husband and I got to have a date the other night and went out to dinner. And it's because, my oldest daughter is in college. My youngest daughter is a teenager and starting to do her own thing. And we actually had a date, and he was sitting there talking to me saying, you know what? Next year, we're not doing Thanksgiving at our house and hosting 50 people at our house again for Thanksgiving. And he was going on and on about Thanksgiving. And I was like, I'm thinking about next week. Like, I'm thinking about my book that's coming out that I'm freaking out about. And I know there's a lot of authors that are going to sit there and go, buy my book. It's the best book, whatever. This book is raw and real. And it's a little scary for me because I'm sharing things that I've never shared before, but I'm sharing things that are real struggles that I've been through and how I've been to switch that up, shift my mindset, tap into joy, and find joy no matter what the hardship or the hard times or the pain or the embarrassing moments or the time I was filled with joy, how I was quickly able to shift that. And so that's what's next. That was a long answer.
Well, you got a book, you're doing some speaking. You figured out how to shift all the things we all deal with on a daily basis when stuff's going wrong into joy. You bottle that, you really got something. But by the way, we all have that ability. We choose at times not to do it, right? We choose to wallow in sad. You could have just sat in the hospital. You could have accepted one leg, but you didn't.
My husband has actually even said, you don't have to do so much. Like, you don't have to do so much. And I said, well, what am I going to do? Sit here and stare down at my leg and think about the pain that it gives me every day? What I do gives me joy. And I want to share that with the world. I want to spread joy and kindness and grit and grace and resiliency in the world so that we can all get through challenging times and make the world a better place.
How do people find you? Get some of this joy.
You can go to go.amberlylago.com/joy, and you can find me there. And when you pre-order the book, you're going to get some free bonuses that I've created. I put a lot of effort and love into these free bonuses. So if you go to go.amberlylago.com/joy, you can find me there, or on Amberly Lago Motivation is where I mostly hang out on Instagram. If you take a picture of this that you're listening to and you tag me, I would love to just give some love to you for having me on your podcast. Let's show them some love. And I will share it on my Instagram because I think it's important to get it out there, get your podcast out there.
Well, listen, this was awesome. I'm sad that we didn't get to do this last time because you were in the hospital. I'm glad we got to do it now. I'm happy that you're doing what you're doing and you're bringing resiliency to the world. We all need a little more of it. So thank you.
Thank you. And I definitely want to get together to bring some people together to do one of your events. And hopefully I'll get to visit you on one of my travels that I'm coming up on too.
That'd be great. That'd be great.